Shannon Garçon is an icon in the ballroom scene and an unsung hero of the LGBT community. As the iconic house mother and founder of the international House of Comme Garçon, Shannon has been promoting ballroom culture and working to promote LGBT rights for over 30 years. His children have gone on to start HIV advocacy groups, make documentaries about ballroom culture, and work on the hit FX series Pose. But Shannon has always made community service and education two of his top priorities of his house. I caught up with Shannon, and we talked about how ballroom helped him overcome homelessness, meeting the legends of the 1980s, how he started his own house, and we even talked about what Mayor Pete Buttigieg needs to do to snatch the ballroom vote. So without any further ado, let's just jump right in. Well, we're really excited here because today I'm interviewing the icon, the founding mother of the House of Comme Garçon, Shannon Garçon. Thank you so much for coming on the Grinder Survivor podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for having me.
With the, I don't know how else to say it, but Pose is a resounding success. I believe it's just been renewed for a third season. Not to mention, sometimes you have some crossover in RuPaul's Drag Race. Ballroom and Vogue culture is going mainstream, and I one reason I felt like I wanted to interview someone from ballroom was I feel like it's one of the few places in the gay community where everyone can be accepted, where you don't have to be, have a perfect body or, look a certain way, or people who might be rejected from other areas of the gay community are embraced in ballroom. And I didn't want to just try to find someone who's I wanted to find one of the iconic house mothers and fathers, and you were like the first person who popped into my head. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And let me just start with the beginning, because obviously ballroom has been going back way longer than even I imagined. Do you know about the history of ballroom? Where did it start? Some people say it even started in the Harlem Renaissance, or some people say it started in the 60s. Where, as far as you know, like where did it all start?
I would say modern ballroom started in the late '60s, early '70s, and I want to emphasize modern ballroom because there were variations before then that our community were doing. And you're right, in the Harlem Renaissance, they had their events up in Harlem, drag and gay men and women. But modern ballroom, I would like to say, started in the late '60s, early '70s under Crystal Ibeja. She was the first one to ever throw what we know as a modern ball.
Wow. So, and since you're quite knowledgeable, what happened then? Was it a one-off that caught fire, or was it, did a few people show up? To the extent that you know any more of the history, please feel free to elaborate.
Yeah. So what happened then was, ballroom was born out of disenfranchised groups, and Crystal, and you ever watched the movie Crystal?
Wait. So, Paul, sorry to jump in. You're saying there's a movie about Crystal LaBeija? I've never heard of it. I apologize.
Yes, Crystal. The movie's Crystal. It's in black and white. It came out, I think, the early '70s, and it talks about her story, but also the challenges she had as a transgender woman, competing in the more mainstream balls, and kind of the colorism that was going on there. So out of that was born. In the United States, we do have a history of segregation between the white and black LGBT communities, especially when it comes to access to clubs and certain community things. There's still a separation, which we're working on, and it's getting better. But it was born out of the '70s.
That's wow. And when did you become involved in ballroom? I apologize if I'm dating you a little bit, but since you're an iconic house mother, when do you remember when did you first go to a ball?
My first ball was in the '80s. I came out when I was 16. And just a little back, I came out when I was 16 to a religious family. My adopted parents were Pentecostal, very strict Christian family. When I came out, they kind of kicked me out in the streets. And as you can see in Pose, there was a scene where Damon was actually um, in Washington Square Park. I actually experienced the same scenario. That was actually what I experienced, the same scenario, just being homeless on the streets. And being a young youth, gay in New York, some friends were like, we're going to a ball. And I remember went up to a ball uptown Harlem, and I don't remember the name of the ball. Um, and it was shock. I was just like, wow, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. But more so, what I got out of it was I felt a sense of the people that went there, a belonging, that these people understood what I was going through. They went through this, and I didn't feel like an outsider or embarrassed. And that kind of made me feel good and got my interest piqued up, because at that time I didn't have anyone. And so they became a surrogate from friends to family.
Wow. And did you have a natural aptitude for voguing? I mean, like some people just have it. You know what I mean? Their artistic expression is that form of dance and movement. Or were you kind of more of a behind the scenes, participant?
So it's interesting when I came out and I wanted to join the house. The first person I met was Willie Ninja, the father of the House of Ninja,
You met Willie
um,
Ninja? Wow.
on the pier, and he was very nice. Willie was very nice to me, and myself being, as we call in New York, a Latino, mixed black and Latino, um, that I navigated, being part Puerto Rican, and that it navigated to the Latinos that were out. And Willie had the House of Ninja, which had a large amount of Latinos. And that was my first experience there. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I know is I wanted to Vogue like him, but I wasn't good. Um, I wound up, yeah, I wasn't good. I wound up joining the House of Pendarvis. And when I met Avis, I went up to Washington Heights for her house. And back then you had to sit in front of her and, she'll look you over and everything. And she wanted me to go in drag. She said, you have small hands, small feet. You'll be great. You should
Wait,
do
wait. Can
this.
I? Sorry, you're hitting.
I
You're hitting
wasn't really
with too
sure
much
about that.
stuff. You're hitting it. We got to go back a little bit because this is too good. You got to paint me a picture.
Well, out there, and when you went to the pier back then in the 80s, people would battle. Your houses was like a little mini ball. You go out there and people would battle. Most of us were kind of homeless and we'd have nowhere to go. So we couldn't, some of us too young to even get into clubs. So we would just go out there and you have your houses on one side, each house, and they'll just battle, and, you send your kids out there to practice and battle other houses. And that's how you got your practice. And Willie was out there just doing his thing. And I was like, oh my God, that is amazing. That is amazing. And I wanted to do it because it was so theatric. It was different than how other people voted. He was very theatric, and he used elements of, shade, and it was just more than dance. He was telling a story, and I thought, I was like, wow, I want to be able to do that. I want to do that right there.
And did you approach him? Did you say, "How do I get in your house? Can I be in your house?"
No, I know. I never asked how did I get in the house. I back then I never even thought I could be in the house. That wasn't even a part of it. That was just I was just so in awe of everything. And just being around them, they introduced everybody to, and he didn't say nothing about joining the house or anything. He was just nice. That was it. And so I was in awe. I didn't think about joining the house until they asked me to that should be a Pendarvis. And I
Right.
was like,
Okay. So,
okay.
and you went to the house mother of Pendarvis, and she wanted you to, as I understand, do drag or what?
Yeah, she wanted me to go in drag. She was like, yeah, you'll be good in drag. I'm a small frame man, so I'm 5'8" and 150 pounds. So back then I was like 110 and like 5'6". So, very feminine quality. So I was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, you could do that. You got small feet. You wear a size 7. Yeah, you can do this.
Did you
And I
do
was
it,
like,
or did you? So what happened?
you know what? I did it once. I didn't feel comfortable.
Mm.
And again, I say this now to my transgender brothers and sisters, that's something that has to be in you. You have to feel that difference. You have to feel that calling, that spirit in you to do that. And that wasn't in me. That just
Okay.
wasn't there.
But but did you join the House of Pendarvis?
I did join the House of Pendarvis, and
So what
I
categories would
won.
you do?
Back then they called it Light and Lovely, which was face.
Okay.
Um, So we have a history of colorism in ballroom, and so face was broken down into the different shades of African Americans here in the States. So light skin, brown skin, and dark skin.
just so I'm clear on that, let me just follow up. Are you saying they would have categories for different colors of skin?
Yeah, for face, yes,
Oh
yes.
wow!
So you would. Mhm.
And I mean, we could probably spend an hour dissecting that, but I had no
Yeah.
idea that it went like that because I could see that giving people a complex, or I could see other people saying, well, wait a minute, the judges always favor the light skinned children, so we got to have a dark skin category. Was it more like that? What was real quick?
So it was only with the face category. That didn't manifest within other categories, as in realness or Vogue or anything. Only with the face was there the colorism so obvious. Um, the other ones, it wasn't. There wasn't there. There was no barrier. So we never broke that down into a color, a hue.
So you were part of the House of Pendarvis, and were you there till you started your own house in around 2008, 2009, or what
No.
happened? What was your journey before you started your own house?
Well, I went from Pendarvis. After that, I went to the House of Elite. Part of me going to the House of Elite was my best friend at the time when I was a Whitney Garçon, uh, icon for face. He was a LaBeija and I was a Pendarvis, and we found that being best friends and being in two different houses became a problem. Because there's secrecies and strategies, and houses don't like you to mingle with other houses, not too much because they feel that you might be telling things, strategy and stuff like that. It just became problematic, so we decided to join a house together, which was the House of Elite. We stayed there for a little while, maybe about a year and a half, and then we joined the House of Mugler, and we stayed there for 15 years before starting the House of Garçon.
So what can I ask? What led up? Why would you start your own house? What was wrong with the house you were in, or what made you say I gotta strike out on my own and build my own thing?
Well, I can honestly say I never. My initial goal was not to start a new house. I left the House of Mugler after being the overall overseer for the house for 10 years, having various positions throughout the house: Atlanta mother, DC mother, North Carolina mother. Um, I left because there was a procedural difference. One of the things that you have, and I'm friends with the founder, David, who I call my gay father. We're good friends to this day. But one of the things that we have, and I run a house like a ship. I think that you have to have structure, and you have to have rules in place. Now, of course, things aren't absolute, which is great, but you do have to have the structure in place to run any organization. And one of my issues was in these houses, you have gay men, gay women, and as gay men, we're attracted to each other. It happens, and you can't have people run through a whole house having sex because they just think it's they can do it. Um, and I had to stop that. I was like, that's not, you can't run an organization with that type of thing going on. And that left to a difference. Then I wound up leaving and said I could start my own house and run it better.
And so, is one of your house rules that the members cannot date?
Well, you can date. There's a difference between dating someone and just someone being promiscuous without any guardrails. So if you find love, I'm all for it. I advocate it because love, you can't determine where you find love. If it happens, it happens. But you can't allow people to just be so promiscuous where they're having partner after partner, um, just because they feel that you're an attractive group of people. Um, so that was something that I don't allow here. That's just not, and most of the members agree with me. Well, they say publicly they agree with me. They may not agree with me privately, but
Oh,
that's the
okay,
statement.
okay. Ooh. So what was it like to start your own house? I mean, did your previous family feel you were betrayed? Was it hard starting out? Did you have a group that you broke off with, or was it hard to recruit? What was it like starting your own house? And what year was it? 2008, 2009?
It, it was 2008. It was hard. It was hard. As I said, I didn't want to, but there's a need here. And one of the things that, as you said a few minutes ago, the Mughals, my previous family, they felt betrayed. They did. They felt betrayed because people don't like to see people leave a house. It's a very emotional thing. It's emotional. I tell anyone it is a hard time. Um, you have feelings because you love these people. You're their family, and you want the best. But sometimes you can't stay. You just can't do that anymore. So it was a rough moment, even starting. And the ballroom doesn't like new houses. The ballroom does not like new houses because, as I tell people, whenever you start a house, there's limited resources in the ballroom, and our resources are the people.
Wow.
And so when you start a house, you have to look for, well, if I start this house, how am I going to build this house? Because we have limited resources, which the ballroom knows you're going to take members from other houses. And no one likes that because it's a realignment of ballroom. And so depending on how you sell your house, and I tell anyone, it's a marketing thing. You have to market your house. There are hundreds, I can't say 100, there are about 20 to 50 houses out there. You have to set your house aside different than other houses so you can sell it and make people want to be a part of it.
So what did you do? I mean, that obviously begs the question: how did you sell your house? If someone's doing well, getting trophies and categories, what were you saying to people to get them to join Comme Garçon? And then, kind of following up from that, what does make your house different?
Well, the thing, so point is that this house is based off of uh, the principles of myself and my best friend Whitney, and our beliefs and how we were raised. One thing, the basis for this house was community, to give back to the community. One thing that I saw in ballroom as a middle-aged Black gay man is that after the 80s, there were no role models for middle-aged Black people. AIDS, the HIV crisis wiped out almost a total generation. So we're the first generation to show what it's like to be a middle-aged gay man. That we're not hiding, we're not, embarrassed that we're here. We're still attractive, we're still vibrant, we still have ideas, we're still part of this community. And that attracted a lot of people, and also a way to give back. The House of Mugler gave me a lot when I didn't have anything. Being homeless and out there, they gave me the structure, and I was like, I need to do that too for this next generation. I need to build a home where they feel safe and that they can see that they're people that actually care and not trying to take advantage of them. So that's one thing. And also reinforce that we walk balls, but balls are not the only thing we do. You have to give back to the community. You're responsible for that. You're responsible to give back. You just can't take. And so that's what we do. We have all these different programs that we have our members involved in. They do community service. We actually have a community engagement part of the house we call CDG Pro, CDG Professional Comme des Garçons Professionals, that actually do the nonprofit work in the community and help people get jobs and training, which is important.
My question is, on your journey here. You're starting out with your best friend, a brand new house, limited resources. How did you convince people to join your house? I mean, did you just say, look, we got to be bigger, our community needs to put out more, or we got to be community service oriented? I mean, was there no talk of like, look, come with me and we're going to snatch more trophies? Was it all, you know what I mean? Like, what
Well,
were you saying individually to convince people
no,
to leave a house where presumably things were okay?
well, you never tell anyone to leave a house. I would never tell anyone to leave a house.
Oh,
And
okay.
I would never tell anyone that's not something that in the ballroom shines doesn't dislikes that. You can never say leave your house to come to my house. That is never acceptable. But what you do is you build something where you make people want to be part of it without
Ah.
asking.
So what did you build first to get the people to come? Was it just the community service projects or?
Well, no, it wasn't community. The first thing is when you have a group of attractive gay men, that's always eye catching.
Oh, okay.
So when you look at it, you look at a bunch of, at that time, uh, late 30, 40-year-old men who look amazing. People are like, oh, okay, yeah, that's something. And they're well groomed and, professional. That stood out in ballroom. That stood out because it gave people, the younger generation, wow, look at that. Look at that over there.
But it sounds like, because it sounds like we almost skipped a step, because you started out with you and your friend. Did you begin to have conversations with other middle-aged gay men? Is that what you're saying? Like
Well,
you didn't
what
go
what
for quote
happened is
unquote
yeah.
babies.
So when you leave, and I left, and my best friend left, we left, and he said, "Well, let's start a house." He wanted to start a house. He said, "I need your help." I said, "Sure." And going back to a previous question, which asked about me being an icon, my ballroom status and popularity or fame, they want to say, comes from being able to run and market a house that so many people in ballroom follow to some degree.
Ah, okay. So that was kind of already your contribution, your role to the previous
Right.
house was you were already the expert in marketing.
Right. And doing this, how to do a house and how to get people on coming aboard and market a house, or brand a house, and put people, especially decided what categories real quickly. This is your category. This is how you need to do it. Blah, blah, blah. That worked out in my favor. So when I left and started his own house, people were like, okay, he knows how to do this. This should be interesting. But with any group of people, when you start a house, there's always a core group of friends that come along with you. Even if you don't ask them, they're like, well, we're going with you because, you're family. You're my brother. You're my sister.
And
You're
were
my
these
mom.
from your previous house? Were these from all over different houses?
From the previous house. So when I left Mugler, basically, I would say 90% of the branch that was in came with me.
What does ballroom look like to you 10, 20 years from now? What's the future?
Well, I can go back and this ties into the nonprofit part. Was I saw the nonprofit part coming, want to come be part of Ballroom. How do you make them feel comfortable in the house? How do you make space for them in the house? And that's where the community and CG Pro come in. So when we say nonprofit, Ballroom has always traditionally been disenfranchised people of color. The African American community in the United States has changed. We're more educated. We still have barriers, but people don't always have the stigmatism. Oh, my parents kicked me out because I'm gay, or I'm homeless, or I need help with rent, or so many problems that we had back in the '80s. Now you have college educated students, young men who are like, hey, I just got my degree in business administration. I'm working for a nonprofit. I like balls. I want to join a house, but I don't need that emotional support that was needed back in the '80s. And I may not be able to Vogue or something. What can I do? What can I help? How can I be part of this community? And you're like,
So
oh,
wait,
okay.
just so I'm totally clear, your house will take people who can't Vogue or do categories or things like that.
Yes, that's why we have CDG Pro, professional.
That seems new to me. Now, I could totally be wrong, but I don't recall that element being available, in years past. Is that
No,
relatively
it
new?
wasn't. It wasn't. And that's why you mentioned Guy Anthony. Guy Anthony is a perfect example.
Where do you think the future of ballroom is? So give me the larger. I get, you're promoting visibility, you're promoting community service, you're trying to take advantage of the fact that career opportunities are opening up for queer people of color that just weren't there
Mm-hmm.
20, 30 years ago. Where is ballroom as a whole 10, 20 years from now?
It's going to be different, right? And you can see it, especially in Europe. You have uh, branches in Europe from various houses that don't have the same need as the American side. In Europe, you see a lot of more cisgender heterosexual women participating in ballroom.
And is that good? Do you have a feeling about that? Some people might say when it becomes too open, it's losing what made ballroom special. What's your view on that? Should everyone be,
Well, I can say this: the mother of our house is a cisgender heterosexual woman.
really? Okay.
Yes, and she's an icon. She walks fashion. And Baby Garçon, she's just cisgender heterosexual woman, mother of 3 kids, married, and she attends all the
I
balls,
was gonna say,
and
is
she's
she
an
still
ally.
involved? Because I've noticed that has happened before. But what tends to happen is once they get a husband and kids, they leave the ballroom community. So your founding member has stayed with you guys.
Well, yeah, she came in already married with kids. So when she was mother, she was already.
Right. Okay. So I'm trying to envision this. So I'm what's jumping in my mind is a white housewife comes to you and says, "I want a Vogue." What's the story about? That's kind of interesting. What happened there?
She came. Actually, she was already in the scene, and she wanted to come to the house, and she came to the house. She was Mother New York. She was already walking in another house, and we do have women, cisgender women, walking balls. In our house we have a bunch of them. They want to perform. They want to walk face. They want to walk fashion categories. And there's always that bond between cisgender and gay men.
And you
That we
think
can't.
that's a good thing then? So it sounds like you're saying to the extent that either Pose or RuPaul's Drag Race, and I get that's very problematic for various reasons, but to the extent that other shows are making ballroom more mainstream, should houses be embracing that?
Um, you have to. Time changes. You have to, but we have to find a way to do it, but still own it.
And
I think that's.
And
And that's the
what's
challenge.
what's the key? Is that, ensuring that people know the history, or
Yes.
okay.
Ensure people know the history, that they respect the history and add to the history.
For those viewers who might not know, one of your house members is involved with Pose, Twiggy Garçon. But I want to know, what's your view of Pose, and are you finding that it is making ballroom more mainstream, or more people coming to balls? What's been the effect of Pose? I guess in one sense on your house specifically, because you got members involved, and then generally broader, how is Pose affecting ballroom?
Well, I'm proud of what Twiggy's done. That's my gay daughter. I'm proud of everything that she has done. And with Pose, I have a hard time. I will say I have a hard time watching Pose. Um, Not because the quality is bad or the story's bad, but it does bring back a lot of memories. It brings back a lot of times that, sometimes we don't want to remember. And I find that every time I start watching it, I get a little emotional and start crying, because you start seeing those memories and they're playing on TV and they're real. They're scenes from your life or people that that you went through. And so it gets a little emotional. Um, I do look at it and I think it's a good thing. It's a work of fiction. I tell people in ballroom all the time because people complain that's not what really happened, but it's a work of fiction. And with that, with Janet Mock, I'm happy with what she's doing. I do feel that some of it it's geared more toward transgender women, which I think it's important that their stories be told. But ballroom, especially with the part they're doing now in their second season, there was a heavy influence of gay men in ballroom. So ballroom starts off with the beginning of transgender women. Thank God they started that, but especially toward the '90s, it became more male dominated, and it kind of shifted. So one of the things that I do tell people when I speak to my coworkers, because they always ask me about Pose and how I feel about it. For African Americans here in this country, most of us come from single family homes where there's a mother pretty much taking care of everything. Fathers are not really present. In ballroom, we always have a mother and father, always. Very few houses, there are very few moments where there's just a single parent. They're both active. Every house has one, and they're active. And we form that surrogate bond outside of our own family and create it in ballroom that we have the family structure there. And I think that's the one thing that would change from Pose because you just see the mother, but every house has a mother and a father, and they're both active. They may be active in different ways, but they're there. And that's one thing I don't see in Pose that doesn't reflect true ballroom.
I was going to say, has there been a particular scene that you kind of said parts of it resonate so closely it moves you to tears? Was it the dancer who went on to become homeless? The homeless, yes, who went on to become a famous dancer. Is that what resonated with you, or what parts really you're like, oh my God, that's my story? Because in one sense it's painful. On the other side, I can see that's revolutionary that story is being told at all, right? You know what I mean? But I get it's mixed. But what parts really hit you as that's my story and that's completely, really hasn't been seen on TV before?
Well, Damon's story, of course, like me, and there's other people I'm pretty sure that have this thing. That was just too much to have a religious family and be kicked out, and beaten. That just brought back a lot of memories for me. I will say one that the last episode, the final episode that I watched, and Whitney was on a panel that one episode, but and I was watching it, and Blanca was home. She was in the hospital, and she was talking about how the kids have grown and left. And that kind of touched me because I was just, telling that to someone else. Is like, Twiggy's grown. Twiggy's doing his own thing. And I'm so proud of him. You don't get to come by and visit anymore as often as you would like. And you don't want to be that person like, I miss you. Come, I want to see you because they have things to do. They're younger. That made me feel a little emotional because I see that in the kids. They're kids. They walk, they get other interests, and they move on. They're still part of the house, but they start doing other things. And there's a scene where she's leaving the ball and she's outside, and there's two young kids there, and she's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And they tell this story about how they're having a hard time. She's like, "Come with me," and I was like, I've gone through that so many times. so many times. And I was like, that's what being a parent is about. A gay mother. It's like you have one group out the next, and then you walk out and you're like, here's the next group right here, because it gives you purpose. It gives you so much purpose, and it's just life bringing. And that part was like, yeah, she got that part exactly right.
They nailed that. Okay, so house mothers get empty nest syndrome.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
I freely admit I didn't know if that part was more real or not because I haven't experienced that, but I didn't know if that was more a way to wrap up the season. But you're saying that is real.
yeah, that's real. You get the empty nest syndrome. You get it. You look around and you're like, yeah. And then there's a new group of kids come in, and you're like, oh, okay, the house is full again. Here we are.
And I hope we don't get in trouble. But I've often thought because the was Pose maybe ignoring some of the grittier side of ballroom, perhaps because just the people I hang out with in ballroom, they got some stories, and they're edgy.
Yeah. It's not. It's glamorizing it. It's fiction and it's glamorizing. There are those moments here. We all know the history of the drug use that has been prevalent, especially more so in the past. Um, the prostitution, escorting, all that happened from these kids, and it doesn't go into deep into that. But that is a part, and I think that may be too much. That may be a director's decision, producer's decision, that America may not be ready for all of that at one time.
I'm curious as ballroom is widening up. I've always thought, look, Pete Buttigieg can't seem to get any black support. And I know for a fact he's like having all these private conversations with black folks, like, how do I win some black support? Does Pete Buttigieg need to walk a ball to maybe get some black support? Does he need to come to your next, ball house event? What does he have to do to get some black folks supporting him?
Oh, well, you know what? Then politics, and I like politics. And I know you love politics. Pete Buttigieg, he needs, and I rethink one, I haven't seen his staff, I haven't seen his team. I worked on presidential campaigns. Um, he needs more diversity, and he needs to show up. He needs diversity. I don't know. I think the challenge that he has as a gay man, and in full disclosure, I have given um, financial support to him, a contribution. I think we know that may not be the final candidate. He may not be the standard bearer.
Yeah.
But we do like him, and we want to support our own because he's gay. We want to be supportive, but knowing that he probably won't make it to the end. But we do. I personally, I like what he says. I like how he says it. I think that he's true to himself. That he's not faking. Listen, I'm in this community. I'm going to go here and kind of sell him a ticket. But I don't think he has a commitment from uh, more popular people to say, "Hey, come with me," because
Okay.
they feel he's not going to get it.
So if his people called you, he could walk a ball.
I would let him walk a ball. I would let him walk a ball. I would let him come give a speech and talk to the people.
What category
But
should Pete Buttigieg walk? I guess he'd say.
executive realness.
I was gonna say no. Okay, but that's too easy. So let's say he's got to what's he got to? Okay, let's say he can't do that. He's got to do something a little bit more edgy or funny. What's he gonna do?
You know what I would like to see him do? I'm not going to say Vogue because that would be just too obvious. We don't want to see him Vogue. But I would like to see him.
Wait a minute. Why can't we see him Vogue? What if he's got some talent? He doesn't look like it, but he might have that talent.
That's so you expect that. Everybody comes in. You want to. So let's think something totally different that no one expects. What about Bizarre?
You mean like a category? So yeah, like you want him to have like a big outlandish outfit.
Yes, just outlandish. Just it could be campy. It could be just bizarre. That Bizarre could be the campy alien.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a dress. You mean like it could be like some sort of outlandish, but still kind of, at least on outward appearances, on the kind of male end of the spectrum.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So but you'll let him get away with executive realness.
Executive is the obvious one, of course. That's executive. That's just, that would be his bread and butter. If he was to join a house, that would be his bread and butter, executive realness. But Bizarre would be a breakout category. It'd be like, you're bizarre. That's your total creativity.
All right, Mayor Pete. So this is a top house mother giving you advice. Don't be
Bizarre.
when you get to South Carolina and you can't get any black support. There you go. Here you heard it here first, y'all. Shannon, you are obviously an unsung hero of the LGBT community. Your house is doing amazing things, It's obvious why, your children are, really making an impact and bringing visibility to this community. And I love the fact that you both are active in making a difference, both behind the scenes and in front of this, both ways. Thank you so much for sharing so openly today. Is there anything else you want to add? Any shout outs or anything you're up to, or just anything else you want to add before we kind of conclude the interview?
No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you. I will be in London soon. Hopefully, Cartel will have another ball. I'll be out there to support London. London's one of my favorite cities. So we want to come out there and support the ballroom scene there.
All right. Well, Shannon, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Again, you are the legendary house. Oh, just real quick, do you want people to follow you on social media?
Yes, they can. My handles on all my social media is all the same. Garçon001.
The icon, Shannon Garçon of the House of Comme Garçon. Thank you so much today, and really appreciate it. Follow him on social media, you guys. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.